And now it's my favorite time of the week. Okay, I take it back. My favorite time is going to Castro's and having an adult beverage and a cigar. My second favorite time is getting people together who love to talk about New Hampshire politics, just like I do. And so we've got a great rank punditry panel for you. Chuck McGee, former chair of the party. He's involved in Spectrum marketing, knows the ins and outs of how to get messages out for political campaigns. Greg Moore just likes to sit around and whine about politics. So it's my perfect combo team here. What more could I ask for? So, ladies and gentlemen, let's start with the big picture question, and we'll go to you, Chuck, first. If you had to kind of give a doctor's prognosis of the shape of the two parties, Republicans and Democrats in New Hampshire, what would your prognosis be, Dr. McGee?
Well, I like where the Republicans are at, to be honest with you. I mean, we've got a strong top of the ticket with Kelly, and you've got Johnny Sununu, in my opinion, is going to probably take that nomination. So they'll make a strong top of the ticket. Under there, we're going to have to duke it out and see how much Washington impacts how much Washington messaging impacts the state races. But, Kelly's a much more aggressive fundraiser than Chris Sununu ever was. And I think the Senate
that's a pretty low bar. The girl who sells Girl Scout cookies in my neighborhood is a more aggressive fundraiser than Governor Sununu was.
You do have some wealthy people running this time, right? You've got Stephanie Jean and Chris Pappas, and you got the trust fund baby over in CD2, and those people are going to be hard to touch. But I think I'm pretty confident about at least the state level stuff.
Greg Moore's only played doctor behind his middle school, but Greg, talking about the parties themselves, setting aside the candidates, the institutions, and then the voters, what kind of shape are they in?
Well, certainly seeing the type of continuity the New Hampshire Democratic Party has had with Ray Buckley through the years,
right,
and his proven ability to be able to pull in resources nationally and to pull some strings to get a lot of the national interest and just basically all of the aligned forces, the DGA, the
right,
DSCC, all the institutional forces to play is well ahead of where the Republicans are at. Scott Maltzy wasn't even the chair or the vice chair. He's sort of an accidental GOP chairman.
Right.
He's doing the best he can, but he's trying to work through a lot of the institutional. Good news is a lot of the institutional groups are able to run through Governor Ayotte's office. She's done a great job of sort of like aligning those forces. She has people in her organization in orbit who know how to utilize those. Having a sitting governor is a huge plus. It is a huge plus when you are trying to put your organizational force structure in place.
Right.
And I don't know that having Ray Buckley counteracts having Kelly Ayotte being the person who's the head of the party.
So this topic comes up on occasion with people who reach out to NHJournal. They say basically, look at the voter registrations. And there's a tweet that's going out this week from someone who noted that Republican registrations are up. And according to this party ID calculations, the state's gone from R plus 4.3 to R plus 5.1 since November of 2024. My question to you is, and we'll start with you, Chuck, is that a thermometer into like passion, interest, or is this just cyclical that has no connection to the people who are going to vote and how they're going to vote in November?
I don't know what my colleague's going to say here, but I see these tweets on a regular basis about people saying, well, we win all the state stuff. It's unconscionable. It's unconscionable that we can't win the federal stuff. But I think it's just indicative of the unique independent Yankee streak that we have in New Hampshire. I actually don't like the fact that we register by party here in New Hampshire. I think it's a little bit of a crutch. When I do work in Texas, they don't register by party down there. You actually have to go out and do the old-fashioned blocking and tackling and do the ID work. And so, the independents are still the 800-pound gorillas, right? So if I've got 20,000 more than the Democrats, that's great, but I still got to keep them home. I got to keep them home, and B, I got to get them out. So to me, I'd rather be up than down, of course, but I don't think it's something you can take to the bank.
Greg Moore, it's a red wave. Voter registration up 5%. It's a red wave, right? No?
That's the type of stat that would matter and mean something if we had closed primaries. We don't. Because the independents can pick and choose and do cafeteria style, there's always going to be a real inertia to stay an independent because you get to pick what primary you want to play in. So until and unless either or both of the parties choose to close their primaries, or as Chuck said, we choose to just eschew voter registration. A lot of this stuff is good for discussion at Castro's on a Friday with an alcoholic beverage in your hand. But as far as on the ground pragmatic impact, as far as what it means, look, this is a state when both sides actually try. When both sides actually try, it's on a knife's edge. And it's unlikely that any of the changes in voter registration has altered that dynamic in one iota.
Also, you have the same day registration. I mean, I'm just like, when you've got a presidential year and 100,000 people register on election day, who the heck cares if you got a 30,000 advantage one way or the other? Am I wrong about that, Chuck? Isn't that a thing?
No, the same day registration has been the bane of my existence since it started.
We love same day registration, I thought. No, we don't. Greg, we don't love it. What?
Well, same day registration is a trade-off that we have chosen to make in order to make sure that every single person who registers to vote does so with a elected election official right then and there. The other alternative would be to adopt motor voter and allow third-party groups, the acorns of the world, to come along and to register voters. So we have to choose which of those poor alternatives we want to pick. We chose same-day registration, and now we have to live with it. We could go the other direction, as Chuck said, which is to follow motor voter and allow people who are not election officials to start registering voters. There are lots of trade-offs either way. We've made one path. I could find things I like about very little about both those paths, so I'm sure Chuck could as well.
So go ahead, Chuck. You'd be shocked. In Texas they have motor voter, and I thought that the registration numbers would be much higher, but you'd be shocked at the number of people when they are presented the opportunity to register to vote, when they're getting a license, just don't do it. Right. I mean, they are still undertaking massive voter registration drives.
And that's part, to me, that's part of, as a guy who grew up in South Carolina, ran campaigns down there, no voter registration, et cetera. It just is another indicator of the culture of New Hampshire. I mean, voter turnout is crazy here because people here vote in a way that, my God, in South Carolina growing up, I mean, it's like 35, 38, maybe 40 years. Nobody.
We see in Texas with the precincts, in North Carolina, we see them precincts with 38, 40, 50% of the vote.
And that's one of the things I want to bring up is I think culture is, like the great Andrew Breitbart before his website was stolen from him. Politics is downstream of culture. I think that culture really matters. And when people say, why can't Republicans win federal races? I say, because it's the culture of New England. You're still in New England. And there's a cultural divide between the National Republican Party and New England, just like there's a cultural divide between the National Democratic Party and the South, for example. So that's my answer. What do you say when people ask you, how are the Democrats stealing all these federal races and you got a Republican governor? What do you say, Greg Moore?
Well, I would say the first thing I would encourage them to do would be to show up for a recount. Nothing will change your opinion faster about the voter intent and how voters think than attending one recount.
What do you mean by that? Why?
You will see the strangest things you possibly can imagine. Meaning people will vote all the way down to, say, the congressional level with one party, and then go all the way over and go all the way down on the other side. I've seen it happen many, many times. I've seen people who just vote for all the women. I mean, there's a lot. I'm not joking about this. Chuck will validate.
I'm chuckling because you see, I mean, they'll vote for president, they'll drop off, or they'll cross back and forth across the ballot 3 times. It's crazy. People make up their own minds.
I only vote for people whose last names start with vowels. That's my rule. And so it's very simple. Okay, let's get to some specifics. There were actually some fireworks in the first congressional district primary on the Republican side. The Democrats have been trying to have fireworks. The problem is it's basically the Iranian Navy trying to shoot at the USS Gerald R. Ford, because you can't even tell that they're shooting on the Democratic side. But the Republican side, Holly Noveletsky, the business owner who ran 2 years ago and came in second. She threw a straight punch right at Anthony DiLorenzo on the issue of immigration and his position that was a pretty common one with Republicans for a while, which is you're here and you're working. We need the workforce. I don't want to throw you out of the country just for being here illegally. If you haven't done something else, let's find a way for you to stay. Chuck McGee, what's up in the 1st Congressional District, and where does the immigration issue play for Republican primary voters?
Well, immigration is still one of the top polling issues in our party. Obviously, affordability, taxes, but immigration is still up there. I've got friends who work on the DiLorenzo campaign. I know he's been very generous to the party. Mm-hmm. But I mean, come on, the guy makes Jeb Bush look like the Energizer Bunny. He's got no oomph, and I've seen him on the stump now multiple times use the word pragmatic. I've heard the word amnesty. The immigration issue could really cut. You saw it cut, and the Gannon Phillips State Senate smackdown in 24. Mm-hmm. She essentially lost that race because she voted against sanctuary cities, or she voted to support sanctuary cities, I should say. I guess my challenge with that ad that Noveletsky puts out is that it was only one reference. I when I do my messaging, I like to at least have 2 or 3 instances of somebody doing something wrong. It gives a little bit more credibility. And God bless Holly Noveletsky too. I mean, my father is a county commissioner who has endorsed her. But I see her on the stump time and again, and she couldn't put a speech together to save her life. So she's really not well defined at this point either. So we've never, in my business, we always try to recommend people at least make some attempt to define themselves before they attack their opponents. But they're trying to put some life into this race. She's trying to get some traction. She's trying to raise some money. The money on the first CD side has been very strange. I thought, DiLorenzo would have put the money in by now. Maybe even go up in TV in May. I mean, I know we're not to May yet, but I thought we'd see more life out of him. And then nobody else is really making any waves. Melissa Bailey's running to the right. I mean, she's no Caroline Levitt, but I think if she honed down her message, she could still be in this race. I'm told she has personal wealth. So I think that race is still wide open.
And Representative Brian Cole, who's in the State House. Now, Greg Moore, because Chuck McGee has invoked the name of Jeb Bush, we of course have to say, please clap. So your take on the immigration issue and on the state of the Republican primary in the 1st Congressional District.
Well, for starters, that the video of Jeb saying "please clap" with poor Chuck Moore sitting right there, looking like hostage video, is one that will go down for the ages.
It's a great one, man. It's a great one.
But regardless, the immigration issue is still going to be a major one. The fact that the ICE issues that have taken place in Minneapolis and things like that has in no way, shape, or form diminished the issue in terms of the issue grid. New Hampshire voters are a little more nuanced than national Republicans. They're less likely to support just a complete removal of anybody who does not have an immediate legal status here. So it's not as clean a hit as it might be in some parts of the country. But it is still a popular issue, and it also is one that reinforces some of the branding that Noveletsky is looking to do, which is to try to sort of tuck into the MAGA lane with reinforcing her position on, say, tariffs. Those issues go together. So it seems clear that she's trying to find a lane. The bigger issue is you're going up in March. Who cares, right? I mean, is there going to be a likely impact on this? My hunch is you see this type of ad, this is the type of behavior we'll often find at the end of FEC reporting quarters. Either to try to goose some more people, to coax some more people to write some checks by showing that you're doing something. They want to see some activity, and you do what's known as a show buy. The problem is if it goes away, all the value of it disappears really quickly. The other real risk that it runs is it might alienate DiLorenzo into doing what Chuck said, which is to writing that big check so that you could get, another zero or two at the end of that check that he writes at the end of the quarter. Sure. So there is some risk on the other end of the equation as well. But to your point, that there was a burst of activity right around the beginning of this month, as far as the candidates really starting to get more involved, rolling out endorsements, things of that nature. And this is sort of like the next level. But to Chuck's point, when someone gets in and starts doing some consistent high level buys to really start to push their numbers up, then you'll start to see the race, I think, start to take shape. But it's nowhere near as energetic as a CD-1 race on the Democratic side.
And also, both sides suffer from the same thing. What is the race about? And that's always what I'm asking from my world. I was on the comm side of political thing. Was we were trying to tell a story and have the election tell the story about some issue, some topic, something, and nobody's got a story about anything. It's really kind of weird to watch, which brings us to the U.S. Senate race, where Representative Chris Pappas is continuing to cast the same votes that he's cast in the past. He voted against requiring a voter ID, wildly popular, voted against making you prove you're a citizen, wildly popular, voted against keeping guys out of girls' sports. He's an 80-20 issue. His attitude seems to be, look, the issues don't matter. I got Donald Trump campaigning for me every day, and that's all I'm going to need in November. Chuck McGee, is he right?
He could be right. It's going to be a tough race if this Iran thing keeps up. I don't know how that ends. Greg Moore is smarter than me, so he might have an answer. But the Iran thing is bad. I don't see an easy way to get out of that. This goes through the summer. I think, I've seen some internal polling from some national firms on our Republican side who say, look, the kind of the outsiders thing is the voters are a little tired of that. Like we've got the outsider with Donald Trump, but we don't need all these other kind of crazy outsiders coming in. Like it's time for steady, like they're done with the chaos. And so I think Chris Pappas has always been a backbencher. He lets Buckley run the show, and he's just kind of the showpiece. And I think they're just going to run against Washington, and you're going to see very little of Chris Pappas. He'll be, doing the dog and pony shows, but there won't be. He's never going to be out front. And I think Stephanie Shaheen, you've seen that in the Democrat. You just talked about the Democrat first CD race. I think you see the same thing. Like it's very safe. It's very calculated. It's just show up, smile. You go to Stephanie Shaheen's website. There's no issues listed there. It's just, I'm the queen, and I'm going to run, and it's Donald Trump's the bad guy.
Suffolk County pollster David Paleologos, who was with us earlier in the podcast, has been polling. Obviously, they do national polling and et cetera, but they poll in New Hampshire quite a bit. He said that he believes the Sununu brand may be big enough to tilt the anti-Trump bias in New Hampshire, which he says is absolutely here, and give Republicans a shot if Johnny's the nominee.
We got to count on Collins, not to take your time, Greg, but we got to count on Collins being steady, because if Collins falls too far behind, in my opinion, DC's going to take the money for Sununu and funnel into Collins, because they're going to save Collins first. The thing I like about Maine this year is that, I've been calling it a Minnesota East, because they've got a huge Somali problem. They've got the huge fraud problem. So not only can we beat up on Maine and beat up on Massachusetts, we've kind of got these external enemies that we can point to. So that's good for Kelly. But the national stuff is going to be a little bit trickier, and that's why I'm so excited about Sununu. Obviously, is that I think he attracts that federal money.
Greg Moore?
There's no question that Sununu's, I won't specifically point to a Sununu, but Sununu's and Kelly Ayotte have found a way to build their own identities and their own
brand.
Well, not just a brand. The brand is important. That is the identity. But beyond that, they've been able to build a unique situation where they have been able to coexist in the ecosystem with Donald Trump without alienating their base too much.
Right.
Largely by putting the emphasis on their opponents and not by focusing on the differences between them, like for example, Ayotte did back in 2016 when she took the bait and fell for defining herself against Donald Trump.
Right.
And to the extent that you can shift the emphasis to Cindy Warmington, to Chris Pappas, that's the winning strategy, because to your point, they're taking positions well out of the mainstream. I mean, has anyone had a better month like the last 30 days than Kelly Ayotte?
Oh, it's been fantastic.
And
But who does she have the good month? Is it because of her brilliance? Is it because of super strategery? No, it's because she has two wonderful friends, Andrew Belinsky and Mara Healey, who've done everything they can to say.
Cindy Warmington. Don't forget Cindy Warmington.
Who?
Exactly.
But I'm sorry. What? I heard that. Is that somebody?
Gets in the race. The ice facility goes nowhere. Andy Belinsky, not only does he roll out an income tax plan, but then he proceeds to get his allies to go out and reinforce us across the state. The Republican Party gives her the fortune of handing over a new tax that she can veto, that she can drive on the affordability message. Yep. And oh, by the way, Maura Healey is trying to make fun of Massachusetts, showing that Kelly Ayotte is living rent-free in her brain.
No, it's absolutely. I agree completely. It's absolutely amazing. I want to ask about something else that Dave Paleologos said. He agreed with Chuck McGee that politicians get no credit for good deeds. No good deed goes unignored, if I can paraphrase you, Chuck McGee, that if you solve the problem of immigration, you get no credit for it.
What have you done for me lately?
Exactly. So do you agree with that premise, Greg Moore, that there's not, stopping the bad guys you get points for, but putting a win in the win column just doesn't matter?
I'm not sure that that's always true. You look at, for example, what Chris Sununu is able to do by running a steady ship and just having, and one of the closest things to look for in the governor is look at the right track, wrong track at the national level and then at the state level. And you look at that delta that exists in between there. And governors have this unique ability to sort of ride above what's going on nationally because of people are feeling good about what's happening in around their local community. But I think that's not any specific good deed. It's a long series of things. But to your point, any specific good deed like getting the ice facility not to happen in Merrimack will have zero impact in November.
Well, I do have to say to Greg's efforts, thanks to Greg's efforts and large part to Greg's effort, we got rid of the dividends in income tax here in New Hampshire. We did use that to some success in some state senate races last year. One last note on talk about Merrimack. Tim McHugh also had a good week, drawing Shannon Chanley as a rubber match or another head-to-head over there. She's got a record a mile long, very bad record we can hammer on. I was really surprised. It's some days I do think Ray Buckley's starting to slip because that's a seat where I thought he would have run an energetic, younger state rep candidate without such a bad record.
I don't understand. What are you talking about? These are proven winners. Cindy Warmington, Shannon Chanley, and Melanie Levesque. I mean, come on, what the heck, man? This is like the Justice League, it's the Super Friends. What are you talking about?
Can't wait for it. Maybe John Morgan will make a comeback.
Okay, so we're going to close on a positive note. I want you to give a shout out to a candidate who has been better than you expected, whether you like them or not, better than you expected. And I mentioned I think to you, Chuck, the other day at an event. Representative Heath Howard should not even be like on the 7th level of conversation. I mean, like he should be like, remember in the original Gilligan's Island theme show, the song used to end, and the rest. They didn't even mention all the cast members. He should be the and the rest. And yet he has managed to put himself in the conversation. Obviously, it's still a long shot. Yeah, obviously he doesn't have money. But I got to tell you, he knows what voters he's going after. He is very opportunistic. And from the time he shouted at Senator Shaheen, something no one else had the testicular fortitude to do, all the way through to wailing away on Israel and being pro-Palestine. Not my flavor, but I admire the guy for having a flavor. What about you, Chuck McGee? Anyone that you can give a thumbs up to out there?
Yeah, she would be my congresswoman, and I don't think I think there's just too many barriers there for success. But Lily Tang Williams has stuck with it.
Yep.
She's stuck with it. She stays out there. She still hits all the event. She's got $500,000 cash on hand, which is more than the folks in the first CD race. And nobody's running against her, so she's going to have a clean shot. I mean, if she can put some pressure on Maggie Goodlander and get her on the debate stage,
So my favorite, before I get to you, Greg, we'll wrap with it. My favorite staying on message story is in one of the debates when she ran before in the primary. Some Marvel movie had come out, whatever, and I asked all the candidates, Republican candidates, which superhero would you be? And you got, whatever, Batman. She said George Washington. That's her super. And I'm like, that is so on brand for Lily Tang Williams. Yeah. Nobody works harder than her, and she is always on message. So I got to give you that. Greg Moore, give somebody a thumbs up.
Well, I'll be candid with you. Somebody who I have to give a thumbs up to, who frankly has no business being in a discussion of the presidential race, is Khanna. This is a guy who has absolutely no business whatsoever being in the presidential race discussion, and yet he has somehow managed to attract media to him coming to New Hampshire, and he understands how to play the game well. He's coming to these early primary states. He's acting like a candidate. And the media are treating him like a candidate, even though he has no business being described in the same terms as like Josh Shapiro or Gavin Newsom or some of the other major names. So I'm going to give him a ton of credit because, got to keep pumping up the first in the nation primary, despite the fact that the Democrats hate New Hampshire.
Well, listen, we love Khanna because Inside Sources, which owns New Hampshire Journal, he writes op-eds for us on occasion that get lots of pickup from our newspaper partners. And he's been on the podcast before. He will be on the podcast again. I hope one of you will be on the podcast. The other one you'll find out from me after this. No, I'm kidding. But thanks so much, Chuck McGee and Greg Moore, for being part of the conversation at New Hampshire Journal.